The German minister who survived execution, Albert Speer, Hitler's close Nazi associate who apologized and received a lenient sentence. Albert Speer was one of the strangest and most elusive politicians of the modern era. He was so charming that he managed to deceive everyone, from Adolf Hitler to entire generations of historians, journalists, and officials. The cunning Nazi managed to emerge from the darkest chapter faced by Nazi Germany, escaping with a massive fortune and a good reputation, despite serving as a key member of Hitler's inner circle before and during World War II. Ultimately, he managed to escape the death penalty after being tried for a series of crimes he was proven to have committed during the war, including directly overseeing the construction of infamous concentration camps and prisons under Hitler's regime. So what is the story of this Nazi who simply said sorry? A prominent figure in Hitler's inner circle. Born in 1905 and raised in the German city of Mannheim, Albert Speer was a young and ambitious architect in his 20s when he heard Adolf Hitler speak. He was so captivated by Nazi ideology that he officially joined the Nazi Party in 1931, 2 years before it came to power. Double asterisk. According to the British Encyclopedia Britannica, Speer was the mastermind behind the designs for the Nuremberg rallies, which were exceptional at the time. They featured theatrical lighting and banners as large as sails fluttering in the air, as Hitler later described them. Speer played a key role in producing the dazzling propaganda that helped the Nazi Party secure popular votes. His skills were so impressive that Hitler appointed him Commissioner for Artistic and Technical Exhibitions in his political team. Indeed, the relationship between Albert Speer and Hitler grew stronger, eventually developing into a direct friendship. After a period of loyalty, Speer secured a prominent position in the inner circle of the German government. From 1942 to 1945, he served as Minister of Armaments and War Production in the Third Reich, which angered his fellow cabinet members. They viewed the smooth relationship between him and Adolf Hitler as a sign that Speer might one day succeed the Nazi leader. According to the Canadian news outlet National Post, Hitler said he felt the warmest human emotions for Albert Speer. The two often went on private walks and studied a book of architectural drawings together. However, Speer did not consider Hitler to be particularly intelligent, though he frequently flattered him and agreed with most of his ideas. With some skill, Speer managed to amass a vast fortune through the connections opened to him by this close friendship with Hitler. This pattern of corruption was exposed in the biography Albert Speer, Hitler's Architect by historian and author Martin Kitchen, published by Yale University Press. The book argues that Speer was more than just a corrupt flatterer maneuvering his way to the highest positions in the state. He was deeply involved in the crimes of racism, genocide, and atrocities committed by the Nazi regime during the war. The architect of prisons and concentration camps. Albert Speer possessed organizational talent and exceptional public relations skills. As Minister of Armaments in Hitler's inner circle during World War II, he managed to improve productivity in an unprecedented way. This was partly due to his proposal to use forced laborers brought in from concentration camps and prisoners of war, with a total of about 12 million forced workers who were coerced, threatened, and tortured until most of them died, according to DW German radio. According to the biography, this idea was the reason behind Albert Speer's reputation as a legend in achieving the industrial miracle that Germany experienced during the war. His statisticians continued to report that Speer's system had raised production to astonishing levels, despite the effects of the war. Skillful evasion of responsibility during the trial. When Albert Speer stood trial at the Nuremberg War Crimes Tribunal, conducted by the Allied powers from November 1945 until its final decision in October 1946, the Nazi architect testified that he had no knowledge of what was happening in the concentration camps. He apologized, claiming that he was unaware of the mistreatment, torture, and killings taking place. As a result of this statement, the global media began referring to Albert Speer as the Nazi who said sorry. The book reveals that Speer not only lied about his knowledge of the conditions in the camps he had designed, but also played an active role in establishing their systems and operations. The construction of the camps was part of his responsibilities in the Third Reich. However, the German judiciary at the time seemed eager to believe in his innocence as a means of rehabilitating those who belonged to the Nazi Party and ultimately survived, according to historian Martin Kitchen in his book. A limited prison sentence and acceptance of the apology. Ultimately, the Nuremberg judges sentenced Albert Speer to 20 years in prison solely for his use of forced labor. He spent those 2 decades in Spandau prison, repeatedly issuing statements in which he apologized for constructing Germany's prisons and concentration camps during the Nazi era. He became known for tending the prison garden and writing his best-selling memoir about his time in the Third Reich until his release in 1966. However, despite the significant evidence presented by researchers and historians that Speer whitewashed his past and evaded responsibility for war crimes and crimes against humanity, the myth of Speer as the innocent Nazi persisted even after his death in 1981. He thus remained the highest-ranking Nazi at the Nuremberg trials to escape the death penalty, earning him the label, the Nazi who said sorry. What was the fate of Albert Speer? Albert Speer passed away on September 1, 1981, at the age of 76, due to a heart attack while visiting London, the British capital. At the time, he was staying in a hotel and spending his days in interviews and meetings related to his books and works, which focused on his time in the Third Reich and his years of imprisonment in Spandau prison. Despite his release from prison in 1966 and his success in crafting a media image as a repentant Nazi, his legacy remains highly controversial. Many historians argue that his public apologies and portrayal of himself as a remorseful figure were attempts to avoid full accountability for his role in war crimes, including the exploitation of forced labor and the construction of concentration camps. Even after his death, debates about his character and actions persisted. Some view him as a symbol of evasion and manipulation to escape justice, while others see him as someone who used his media skills to present himself as an exception within the Nazi regime. Question of this video: how did Albert Speer manage to build a lasting image as the repentant Nazi, despite his deep involvement in the crimes of the Third Reich?
Dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich gearbeitet habe, dass ich mich in diesem Jahr für dich eingesetzt habe, dass ich anständig meine Zeit